Quack.
Quack.
Well, then, I'm your host, Adam Chamail.
And I'm Aaron Schroeder.
That is right. And this is the Quack 12 Podcast, the most official, unofficial Oregon Ducks podcast on the web footosphere. And Aaron, things got a little scary to start off against Cal.
Okay.
Yes.
Did they? Yes. But only barely, right?
Yeah.
Because that first play,
I mean,
here's what I did.
okay.
Here's how I handled it.
All right.
That first play happens, interception, and then in my head, I hear Hyth go, this game has already been played. And then cut to him saying, whatever he said last week about a play where he was like, it was a fluke occurrence or it was a freak play or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Something never to actually be concerned about because whatever. But I will say this.
Yeah.
I love that it was raining because it made it a lot more fun because it became a, you ever watch those bloopers VHS tapes?
Uh-huh. Oh,
it became one of those tapes for a while. I loved it.
I definitely tweeted from our Twitter account at Quack12 Podcast. I tweeted that was a game that could have really used some yakety sax in the background. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
God. I mean, obviously, it actually made me feel even better about this team because in the end we won 63-19.
Yeah.
There was a lot of first quarter mayhem, mainly to do with the rain, mainly to do with bad luck, because Oregon had committed only 2 turnovers. Actually, I believe they were and are still kind of there. Number 1 in the country with least turnovers, committed with only 2. And then in this game, we committed 2 turnovers. Which goes to show you both that it's like, well, that was some random shit there.
Yeah.
But also, we still only have 4 seasons in the turnover, which is 4 turnovers in the season, which is still like tied for best in the country, I do believe. So still not bad at all.
I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like at the beginning of the season, when we were making our predictions of how the year would go, and I committed to the 11-1, I said it was going to be like a zany loss. And then because we had kind of gone through all the teams, we might have even said like it'll be one of those weird ones where it's not a so great team, like a Cal. So I think what happened is we have crossed timelines to a timeline in which it's actually the Huskies, because we all know how that worked out. And the rain showed up for this one to keep us on trajectory for the 11-1. Because if it was dry,
you think Cal would have won?
if we would have had the same screwy first bid, I think it would have been a bit more sketch.
Well,
they're not good.
I don't think
we destroyed them in the end.
I don't think there's a universe in which this particular Cal team beats this Oregon team on this day. Because we had that. So it was the first play of the game was the Bo Nix interception to Tez Johnson, his brother. And it was, maybe thrown a little off, but overall pretty good throw. Just hit his hands, bounced off, went straight to Cal. And then the other one was the fumble for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Which again was, timing was off. Is not something that regularly occurs. And then they return that for a touchdown. But without the other funny thing was we had the blocked field goal.
Yeah.
Right? And then it was like, no, there's actually 2 penalties stacked on it. So now they get a first down. And you're like, okay, well, I guess Cal's going to score. And then we pick it off.
Right.
which was awesome.
Yeah.
And then we go down the field but then we're like really backed up 3rd and whatever 26 or something because all those penalties. And you're like, okay, well, it looks like we're boom, scoring that. Like our offense and our defense are just too good for this to just be bad on every single play. Like
Yeah.
eventually they're gonna rip off a positive play, is what it feels like.
Cal?
Oregon. Even when
Yeah.
things stack up bad against Oregon, like in a row, like it could be 3 bad plays. That 4th play could still be just a game wrecker, like this is a solid team that you can rely on right now. Doesn't mean we're gonna win
Well,
every
let me
single
ask
game, but yeah.
to that. No, we are now forward. We're winning. I
Yeah, I
mean,
hope
it's
so.
11-1 season.
Yeah, I hope so.
Um, uh,
Oh,
was
what?
it questionable how long we kept certain players in once we
So
were shown that we were gonna win this and keep them shut down?
well, in that second half, I mean, because Cal scores on their first drive. It's their only offensive touchdown of the game. On their first
That's the
drive, they
thing I was
march
gonna bring
down.
up earlier
Yeah,
too, was that like that touchdown that you spoke about.
the
I
fumble.
remember at a
Yeah,
certain point the announcers being like, and that's the first one that the offense scored. And I was like, wait, what
yeah,
time is it?
yeah. That was in the second half.
Yeah, dude.
They score on a 75-yard drive, 6 plays. So then at that point, it's 35-19.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a game.
Is
Like
it
that's a 2-score game
with
against.
Cal though?
I mean, yeah, against the competition, who knows? But if God was just like, "Yep, screw the Ducks," and that first quarter happened again in the third quarter, where
Uh-huh.
we just have like inexplicable things that haven't happened all season, all of a sudden they're happening all in the same
I
game.
mean, I think it
That's what it
was
would have taken. That's what it would have taken. But yeah,
as we know, the camera adds about 1 million drops, but it seemed like it was kind of pouring in the first
it was
half.
rain. It was pretty bad. I mean, it was raining pretty
So,
hard
I mean,
off and
that's
on.
obviously I feel like it was the rain that literally caused this game,
I would say so.
or that first
Yeah.
half, which is
Yeah,
so
rain and luck, but yeah.
which because yeah, once the second half rolled around, knock knock, who's there? I'm bored.
It was important, dude. I did fall asleep. I'm not
Oh
going to lie. For about 1 minute. It was in the second half. I
uh-huh.
actually I unfortunately fell asleep right when it was a good big play for us.
Uh-huh.
Um where we forced the fumble and then recovered it, but it was also really sad because that was the play where they had the injury, the very, very serious injury.
Yeah. Watching the replay,
Mhm.
you
To
see the
Javian
situation,
Thomas, yeah.
but have they released what in the world has happened? What that
I mean, all
was?
I know is it was so, Evan Williams gets the big hit against him, the
Yeah.
safety, which was a clean hit, um, and he just gets laid out.
Yeah, I mean, it looked routine until you see him landing,
I
I
mean, he was
guess.
pretty immobile, like, just
Yeah.
ligaments, like, flat on the ground. Evan Williams, I mean, to his credit, then collects that fumble, which is pretty cool, and
Yeah.
that was, like, after Cal was driving, they were deep in our red zone, and then he forces that, so that's a sweet play, that being said, but, then Thomas, they gotta bring the card out, it looks very serious. From what I understand, they took him to Sacred Heart in Eugene,
Yeah.
and, apparently he can move his, legs and arms.
Extremities.
That's the first big thing, so that's good. And I believe he has, like, returned home, so it's not like he's still at this hospital, that would be very bad. So, like, the worst of the worst hasn't happened, so that's
Was
good,
it
that's
like
all
a
I need.
brain bang? Like
I
he
have no idea. I mean, I could make up shit and be like, "Yes, it seems
so
like
they
a
haven't said what
level 2
actually
brain bang." I
so
have
they
no
haven't
idea.
you know what I mean? They just haven't released what actually happened.
They haven't been specific. I also haven't looked it up. I haven't, once I saw that he wasn't like severely, severely injured, I honestly just didn't look it up.
Yeah,
But
because it
yeah,
seemed to me like nothing was broken. I was like, "Oh, maybe he's
I mean, we're watching
This
from
was
TV.
this
What the fuck do we
yeah.
know?
Yeah. This is the
Aaron,
concussion that
there's
sends him off.
basketball. There's basketball we need to
Is
talk
that
about.
all we're going to talk about that game?
No. Do you think we're gonna have Hyth on in about 15, 20 minutes, and Hyth will have nothing to say about this game? Do you think that is the
I mean,
slightest possibility?
He might.
Okay,
Honestly,
we'll
I think
see.
it's a game that he might write off as like, it was freak occurrences in the beginning, and then the obvious happened in the half. That second half, that's all I have to say. He could maybe say that.
You mean being brief and not thorough? That sounds like something Hythloday would do. Let's get into this next segment though, because we do have the beginning of Quacksball, which means we gotta play it.
Quacksball. 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 Oh.
That is right, Quacksball back in the house. And there's literally been one game for both the men's team and the women's team.
Okay.
A lot of turnover on the women's roster, which is per usual. Men's roster, actually a good amount of returning talent, which should get you excited, and a lot of really good young faces, like really highly regarded.
Oh, okay.
However, in true Oregon Ducks men's basketball fashion, there's been a rash of, hopefully not too serious, but at least somewhat in the short term, serious injuries to starters before week 1 even starts, because that's just the curse of in Oregon men's basketball. I don't know. Unfortunate, but actually some good news too. So I want to get into first the women's basketball side of it. I thought you would find this interesting, and especially the timing. So Kelly Graves talked with, he talked to the press. James Krepia of Oregon Live reported this, is where I read it. Kind of going at this season with a different philosophy. Now, they really are going to be more going for the defensive side of the ball. Like,
this is men's.
No, this is women's.
Oh,
Kelly
okay.
Graves. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, because it's pretty strange. Like,
has he come out with some quotes? He's got some words.
I got quotes right here. I believe that right now we have a good first unit and a couple of subs. We've got to somehow work on developing those players that might be in that 8 to 10 spot. Everyone is capable in short spurts. It's a fine line. You've got to get some of those kids to help develop. So he's just saying, like, we need to be scrappier. He says, I think as much as you talk about the past, we have to worry about the present right now. And we don't have the same players that we did on past teams. Sorry, this is not Kelly Graves. This is actually our player, Scott, who's a new addition to the team, who I'll get into in a second. I was a fan from afar for those years. I think bringing in my experience in my 4 years at a different university and the success that I saw there, what I was capable to do, but also listening to our teammates and what they liked in last year and what they felt they needed to improve upon to make strides. He also says, this is from Kelly Graves. Yeah. I think we understand, but then I think it really means we have to hone in on the defensive end. Sorry to be confusing. This is actually Grace Van Sluten. So saying they really need to hone in on the defensive end. If we're only scoring 60 to 70 points, obviously we have to keep our opponents lower than that. I think that's where our mentality is at. Buy in on the defensive end, fly around, get loose balls. And then I believe I have one more here. This is Chance Gray. Chance Gray is returning. She was a really promising freshman last season. She's basically, I would say, the most talented, certainly guard that has stuck around.
Yeah.
A lot is going to be put on her shoulders. She did look good against Northern Arizona. We can do the exact same thing that we did, but we have to do it in a little better style. I like playing defense. We can embrace it, and I think it's a good way to go. We may not have all the talent in the world, be the quickest and the fastest, but I know we have a lot of heart, so that's going to carry us a long way at the end of the day. I think as we come together, we'll be able to score like we did last year, maybe in the 80s, 70s. As far as we're concerned, defense is going to win us our games, and offense will take care of itself. So it's very clear. And like there's a few more quotes where they really harp on the like, we are a less talented team. And I kind of like the like fully looking in yourself in the mirror aspect of it, because you had to change something. So here is what I'm looking
but
for.
no quotes from Graves.
I mean, I said like one early in the beginning.
Okay.
But this is clear. He is telling everybody, setting the table, being like, we're a less talented squad. We are going for a defense first strategy, which is
gosh dang. Here's
plausible.
the deal.
Here's hold on. Shut up. So, because it's like, if you have less talent, which this team obviously does, doubling down on the defensive end does make sense, because that is the equalizer. If you're all playing as a team and playing solid defense, then it is, you can erase a lot of the other thing. And then like, consistent offense, that is the thing. You do have to actually pair it with something that will work. So here are my goals for this year with this new news.
Okay.
This is what I would need, in my opinion, to call it success for Kelly Graves.
Oh shit. Okay.
I need team buy-in to this philosophy.
Sure.
So I need them to really
Well, it sounds like they've all bought it.
They've said, yeah.
The 3 leaders have bought it.
Yeah.
Because apparently there's this new kid who's going to be a total leader.
That's unfortunate. Yeah. One thing is Peyton Scott, who we were just talking about, who is a transfer, came in here looking to really add to the defensive end. She's a guard. She played for Miami of Ohio. It was, played 4 seasons there. Is a very solid player. Was going to be someone we really built.
Going to be?
Well, she got about, I think, 6 minutes into the first quarter and got injured. We do not know how serious it is, but the few little quotes and something we were it does have, my guess, because we don't know, is it seems like it's something where it'll be like at least like a month we're talking. Like, I don't know. And she's had injuries in the past, I believe.
So we're thinking 12 to 16 games.
Who knows? Who knows, man? We're just speculating. But so that's a blow already.
Yeah.
We're going against Northern Arizona, so there wasn't much to win from this per se. They are, we are heavily favored. We beat them 81-48.
Okay.
It's game 1, so I don't know what to really say. There was times where we were held down offensively, where it kind of looked like last year a little bit. We didn't shoot the 3 very well, 6 of 21. However, Chance Gray did hit 3 3-pointers. Like, the idea of this squad is like, we are no longer the UNESCO teams of like, let's. I
don't want to be. I hate harping on the past. Who gives a shit? Here's my question, though.
Yeah.
6 of 21?
That's not terrible, actually.
What is the average amount of 3-pointers shot in a women's college basketball game? Because it seems like we're trying for a lot of them. And if we're going defense is the game and we just need to be getting points as we can, doesn't it make more sense to just maybe only allow
like abandon
8,
the 3 almost?
Like literally you get 4 3-point chances a half. And if you make the
you're gonna get way more. Well, okay.
I'm gonna get really detailed on.
We don't have much time, so whatever you're saying, please say it quick. It's all.
Yeah. If you make your first 3-pointer, then you still get to have 4 misses. You know what I mean? So once you miss one, now it counts down, and then that's how 3 points should work. I don't think
we should kind of abandon that 3 game a little bit more, because we don't have.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to be focusing on defense, then maybe let's just focus on the layup.
That is
the assisted layup. Let's just get if we're going rudimentary, then let's go hella rudimentary.
I get you. I mean, what we've been saying, what I've been most like disappointed with Kelly Graves over the years is that it seemed like I've only got this one style that I can coach, which is just have better offensive players.
I have to
score.
have A+
Yeah.
top tier talent. Otherwise, what am I
Yeah.
doing? It's like,
Exactly. And then
Also-
that talent running off every year, so you can't build off of it. Like
right.
that was what we didn't like about him. So on one side, it is like, okay, it seems like he's gonna approach it differently this season because of to match his personnel. That's a good thing. It doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to win more games or anything like that.
The thing, the only part of it that kind of I have a tough time accepting inside of it as well is that it just sounds a bit like he's being dismissive. Like he's not trying to cultivate the talent and help it grow. He's just going, well, y'all are only this good, so here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, he
So
is.
good luck.
He is nagging.
I'll be
a little
you know
bit.
what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, dude, maybe try a different philosophy at how to reach these kids that they could unlock a newer level of potential.
I think in theory, the plan is
I would love to be in that
Yes.
locker room.
he's
He is.
trying to be like, yes, here is the new theory. Here's the thing that's going to unlock us as a team
Okay.
is solid team defense.
So once they get the defense thing down, maybe
Yeah.
the hype train shows back up again.
Yeah. I mean,
But right now we just
Wins gets the hype train. And it's very clear. I believe they went to a trip to like Greece, I want to say. They definitely did some like global, team trips. There's been a lot of like social media stuff in the off season of them like trying to get team chemistry very clearly.
Okay, great.
That has what's been like really hurting us.
Yeah.
Is the lack of team chemistry, honestly.
Okay.
And just cohesiveness.
Facts,
in
yeah.
general. Yeah.
I mean, they spoke about it like when you don't get to be with each other unless you're on the court practicing, it kind of fucks with the way you communicate.
Yeah. And so
they mentioned that. That's a real.
And we do have some, we do have solid talent in our starting units. And we do have like some advantages in like height, like with Filipina Che, Grace Van Sloten, still a great player. Chance Gray is a good shooter, and you want her shooting 3-pointers. She was 3 of 8, which is not, if you're shooting 50%, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. No one else hit a 3-pointer. Like Sophia Bell, it would have been nice if she hit one of her 6 attempts. But
dude,
like you said,
no, you got to cut her off. I have so many rules about how to handle 3-pointers.
This is, I mean, it's clear what you're saying is we need to do like just ground and pound, just be like the kind of just Baylor style almost.
Well,
I don't think we have that talent. Like I don't think Filipina Che is the consistent finisher that like a Ruthie Hebert was. I think is the.
Why can't we just teach them to do Larry Bird shit where it's like crazy blind passing? We just need to teach them crazy blind passing.
At some point you had a gym coach or something that saw you, Aaron, was probably like, maybe that guy's good at basketball.
Yeah.
Imagine going up to that gym coach who's working with a young Aaron, and you go talk to him and you say, hey, why don't you make this guy like Larry Bird? What is wrong with you? Make this guy like Larry Bird already. That's the problem.
Now let's say I'm that coach.
Okay.
I'm gonna go,
you're an idiot.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, and then you're gonna
and then I mold this kid.
And then you're not gonna get close to getting you like Larry Bird.
You go buy a 1960s late era F-150, and then you do like a country hick Rocky montage.
Oh, the montage. Well, maybe we
you
did the
just
montage
need a good montage.
We had montages of them having a good time, like,
yeah.
So maybe we're there.
We're doing it.
I'm
talking about a montage.
We won this game, which is all that really matters.
That's right.
And we won it by a lot. If this was like a 20-point game, I would just be like, yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. It's the first game, so who cares, in a long season. but we didn't. We did well. 81-48, led
Adam,
the whole time. Did well. Yeah.
final question, and then I'll let you take us wherever we need to go.
Mm-hmm.
Remind me again, how many minutes are there in a game?
How
Total?
many minutes? 40 minutes, my man.
Total in a game?
That's right.
So they made 2 points per minute.
I don't want to do this math. You do what you want to do.
If we made 81 points and the game is 40 minutes long, that's 2 points per minute. I'm just saying, the point per minute philosophy will set you free. We're doubling it already.
Well, there you go. So up next for that, they don't have the toughest schedule. They really don't. Not like usual. So they have a schedule where hopefully they can kind of grow into it. They started off against Northern Arizona. Up next is Arkansas Pine Bluff. Okay. Then Grand Canyon. Then Santa Clara. And we'll take it from there. But even then, Nevada, Portland, big game against Baylor. That's December 3rd. So we got a while till that. But yeah, I mean, it is a thin on talent roster. A lot of newcomers. There is a core of returning talent there. So I don't know. I want to judge it just by, can they get this defense first philosophy actually together? Does it look like the team is having a good time? Because if they're not, then we just have the same problem we did last season, where they're just going to be looking to bounce to a better team. That maybe not even a better team, maybe just a more fun team, because it's not fun to play on this team.
Well,
And
that's
then
kind of what I was talking about, was rubbing me the weird way.
Well, the other thing I'm just looking for is, like, can they stay healthy? Those three things are the only thing I'm really looking for. And it just, do they have chemistry? Are they having fun? And are they actually instilling this philosophy? I'm not even looking for like wins necessarily.
Wow.
I'm not having
Braves
such a high
has got
bar.
you in the same mindset as the team. You guys, it's not about, it doesn't even matter if we win anymore. We just need to, like, at least look competent.
Well, I
mean, my God.
We'll see.
See, that's what rubs me the wrong way, is it instills a level of defeatism that, as a I just can't.
From Kelly Graves' perspective, I think he's saying not that, like, well, we've already lost, we don't have the talent. I think he's saying, like, we can't just pass it to the one person and they're going to be so dominant that that's all we got to do. We literally have to be a fucking team.
We have to, you have to reinstill
and play team defense. Like, that's a legit way to be a title contender, but we'll see if he can instill that. And not only that, I guess the other thing I'm really looking for is how many people that would have been starters are on this team next year. Like, if someone who would be earning starting minutes next year instead decides to transfer, then that's a big ol' L for me.
Well, one of those earliest quotes that you said sounded like it's going to be a lot of rotation.
It's possible.
Maybe starting doesn't become the end thing. It's just about having minutes, and everybody's getting minutes. Maybe.
We'll see. Well, again, like, if someone who is clearly a worse basketball player is getting as many minutes as a better basketball player, and then the better basketball player transfers, that's a big old L for me. Is all it's going to come down.
Sure.
Now, let's go to men's team.
Okay,
we do not have much time.
We do have a lot to get through. My
Oregon took on Georgia. Georgia, not a great basketball team, but they are, from an actual power conference. So this is a good measuring stick. The Ducks, as I said at the top, are an injured squad. So we always got N'Faly Dante, who is fantastic, very consistent scorer, is trying to add to his game, has obviously battled injuries his entire career, but other than the injuries, has been very good. He still is having some knee problems, but he started in this whole game. They were conservative with his minutes still. They clearly don't want to play him too much, but he is also a starter and very important to this team. And his size, 6'11", is something we do have replacements for him, but that's hard to take off the court.
Man, it's never mind. Keep going. We don't have any time.
So injury wise, injury wise, the ones that really fly off the page here. Couple of players, Mookie Cook from Portland, Oregon. He's a freshman, 5-star, played LeBron in that whatever Disney Plus bullshit LeBron movie thing. I don't know. Young LeBron. But he is injured and is injured till like deep December because he did have to have off-season surgery on his ankle. But they were saying maybe early December, which is actually that wouldn't be that bad. Kwame Evans is a freshman. He's not injured. He's very talented. Nice to see him. But Jackson Shellstad from Westland, Oregon, from where Peyton Pritchard's from. Also very, 5-4 star, depending on where you look. He is injured. That one was a little more like a week or so before the first game. And is very clearly not as serious as Mookie's.
Okay.
And who knows, like they said that they just, because he's a freshman, because he's very, talented, they want to be very cautious about him. And Dana Altman was just saying, like, we're going to wait like at least a couple of weeks, maybe more. We are not going to rush it.
Sure.
That's kind of where they're at with him. And then Jermaine Couisnard, another starter, he was kind of in concussion protocol before the season due to practice, but he played this whole game too. So 2 injuries to our 2 most promising freshmen, some would say, 2 guards. That is concerning. But overall in this game, we did win. We did look like the better team. There were times where, we had a big, like a 25-10 lead, like right off the bat, and Oregon looked much better. Georgia had 2 big rallies back. Like at the end of the first half, they really like put on like I think more than an 11-0 run or something like that, and got close. But then Oregon was able to pull away. And then in the second half, they did make it. Because we were terrible shooting from the charity stripe, like from free throw shooting, we shot like under 50%. And it made it
very great.
No, not good. But it made it so Georgia was able to rally back, obviously. But we did win this game. We were able to close it in the end. There were some highlights, including from 6'3" Brennan Rigsby, who played a lot last season, showed some good flashes. In this, he looked awesome. He was able to hit the 3. Not only that, but he like took it to the hoop. Really showed his hops ability. Like he dunked. He had a like monster dunk. Probably the highlight of the game. And maybe made a case for being a starter. Because who did start, I believe, is Jesser Zula, who's from Houston, Texas, first of all.
Now.
He played for Central Michigan. Didn't do great there, and in this game wasn't fantastic.
Okay.
I would love to see more Brennan Rigsby, because he looked like when he was on the court, we weren't always the best, but he specifically played very well. And it was just nice to see. Also, Nate Biddle, another 7-footer from Central.
Yeah.
He had a really good game. Like, honestly, I'm pretty excited for this team. Really, really hoping that the injuries don't hold us back too much. And that when those 2 players are brought back, that they're able to stay healthy, actually stay on the team. Because if that were to happen, then the schedule lines up pretty well. Because next we play Montana and Eugene. then Tennessee State in Eugene, then Florida A&M in Tallahassee. None of those, like, we should, even with those injuries, be heavily favored. We should win all those games. Then we got the Emerald Coast Classic, in which we can play maybe Santa Clara, maybe Alabama or Ohio State. Those are obviously tougher matchups. Beginning of December, we have Michigan, could be tough. UTEP, California Baptist. So it's like not Murderer's Row. And even we could be a good enough team even without those guys because we have some, veterans. We could be good enough to beat these teams. I don't know. If we're undefeated by like early December and then those players come back, I'll be pretty excited about this team. I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic right now.
There you go. That's the
injuries
spirit.
are
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, the injuries are obviously rough when you're like, wow, we got these new players. Boom, they're done.
But yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree whenever I say we probably need to be investing in more robotics for like limb replacement when it comes to our basketball players.
Oh, hell yeah, baby.
So that way they got like robot legs and stuff.
It helped.
Just
saying it helped.
It'd help.
Also, hitting fucking free throws would help. 14 of 29, Aaron. 14 of 29.
I don't feel as strongly about that, I guess, because it's in the name. They're free. Like you should be good enough at the game that you don't need them to win.
Well, in this game ended up being 82-71. It is the thing where it's like, well, a lot of those would have definitely made it more comfortable. But it was a good win. Oregon was clearly the better team. I think you want women's basketball to be shooting more like men's, because they didn't do great shooting wise, but they were 42% from the floor, which I think is about what the women's were.
Yeah.
And they were 40% from three, which is actually pretty solid. 6 of 15. They only took 15 three attempts.
That still seems so high to me.
15's not a lot. 15's low, actually.
Yeah, it must be.
Like Georgia, on the other hand, took 30. Georgia
took 30?
30, yes. And they were also not a good shoot at the. I mean, they were down, and then at a certain point, you just got to start shooting the three if you got any chance.
Yeah.
Oregon was up, and we had the clear talent, like height advantage, which if Nate Biddle and Folly Dante can stay healthy, and Kwame Evans, who's 6'9", he's a very talented freshman who is healthy. Those are three really talented bigs, and a lot of other teams aren't going to be able to match up with them very well, and that may be enough for us to get a little winning streak going on. Like, I'm not even saying we have to be undefeated in early December, but I just hope we look competitive in every game, and that we look pretty well built by the time the two talented guys join it.
Basketball is a lot like baseball, I feel like, when it comes to just general fandom throughout the year. There's so when you get on a streak of winning, then people start to get hyped up. But otherwise, it's just like, I just hope we don't look stupid out there.
Yeah. Well,
whereas with football, everybody is just straight into.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you only got 12 games in the regular season.
True. That's true. Right. It's more of it's long distance in basketball even.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games, and it's like even then, it's like, who cares what you look like? If you start winning everything in April and March, then it doesn't matter what you did before. Yeah,
it's crazy.
That's why the injuries don't scare me too much. They're clearly just being.
We have
very
so
cautious.
much time.
Yeah, and it's almost better that it's happening to like the talented freshmen. As opposed to the veteran players, them getting injured, because then you're just throwing out young people out there that don't have the chemistry and telling them to win.
Well, It also, I mean, as soon as you say that, it makes sense to me that it's the younger players because they're the ones who just aren't as bulked up yet. They haven't been, they don't have court hours like those vets do, where they're like stronger.
That being said, one vet, Keyshawn Bartholomew, who played on the squad last year, transferred from Colorado. I'm going to need him to do a little better as a old hand there, because he scored 8 points on 2 of 10 shooting from the floor. He at least was 1 of 2 from 3, but still, like, going to need him to be more of a consistent kind of threat there. But Brennan,
wow, shots fired.
Yeah, well, shots fired and missed on his part. But otherwise, I'm feeling pretty good about the Oregon men's team. I like this team a lot. You could see in theory how it would work out and how it could maybe work out very well, but it'll just all come down.
Okay, so you think maybe the Altman agenda is getting implemented well?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing.
It's
right
so
here,
early to tell.
better.
Who knows?
There's the last 2 seasons we've had to go to the goddamn NIT. Yeah,
we can't be doing that anymore.
We can't be doing that anymore.
Or if that's where we end up going, we should just not go. It's not a good look.
Some teams don't.
It's not a good look.
I would say it's a worse look to decline it, because you're like, I personally would, because it's like, even if it sucks, and even if some of your best players are like, I'm not going to play because I want to try to go to the NBA,
right?
Or I'm transferring out of here. It still benefits you for the other people on your roster. It's more practice. It doesn't hurt. You know what I mean?
But it's more practice at the end of something when they're about to go into hibernation for a long time anyway. So 1 extra week.
Yeah. Well, it could be like you could go on a run, and if you were to win the NIT, that actually is something, or even go really late into it.
Is there a cash prize
you can build off of? I'm sure like the school gets some money, like the players aren't getting more money or anything.
Oh no, I would need a cash prize for my players if I was going to put them through.
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
Aaron, that's been Quacksball. Let's take a break here. We'll have Hyth Day on the horn, and we'll talk some Pac-12 football, baby.
I have one question. It might be conspiratorial because I don't know what exactly it was that I saw.
Hope it wasn't a ghost. We'll see y'all in a little bit. Quack, quack.
Quack, quack.
Well, Aaron, hate to say it, but the time machine is broken.
I mean, this whole thing was running off the power of your cell phone. And obviously, when we hit 1894, there's no longer cell service or Wi-Fi connection, so...
Not gonna lie, I did not think this through.
God almighty, Adam, what are we supposed to do now?
I mean, we're in Eugene, Oregon in 1894. We could check out the very first Duck game. Maybe it's a good thing.
No, it's not good. Look, we've already been here for about 5 days, and the very first thing I learned living in Eugene, Oregon, is that shows have been banned that are quote-unquote unchaste and demoralizing. And that's kind of the only kind of content we know how to make, dude.
We could review every Duck season as it happens.
Even the children here are freaky.
Then post it on the Quack-12 Patreon in the future.
I mean, it's just really hard to not spoil, tragic national events.
Imagine it, a weekly show dedicated to Oregon football history with 2 charismatic time-traveling stoner hosts.
We live in the most expensive house in Eugene, and it's a fucking shack.
And the most beautiful thing about it? We can charge them a measly $5 in the future. And when we get it in the past, we'll be freaking millionaires comparatively. And I'm talking robber baron status, baby.
Adam, I make bugs fight in a shoebox just to simulate television.
All listeners would have to do is go to patreon.com/quack12 and sign up for hundreds of hours of duck entertainment.
But the hooch is good. In fact, it's kind of got me wanting to try my own hand at it.
That's right. For a measly $5 a month, that's patreon.com/quack12. Now let's go watch them lemon yellows give those hay seeds what for.
And keep your eye out for Dr. Schroeder's blueberry wine.
And we are back on Quack.
Quack, quack.
Aaron, what a wonderful commercial. Two wonderful commercial actors in there, too.
I think probably the best in the biz.
In the Quack 12 biz, sure.
Sure.
Aaron,
Yo,
let's bring on a very special guest.
let's get into it.
Film reviewer and managing editor over at Addicted to Quack, Hyth. How is it going, Hyth?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. We were saying, Aaron and I, about this Oregon Cal game. The first quarter had so much craziness to it.
Yeah, sure.
That in the end, like, you know, the halftime score, the final score, the overall domination of the game, it makes you feel even better about the Ducks being like, look, all this crazy shit had to happen, and still it just didn't even matter. Like, all of it, like, yes, it sucks that all that stuff happened back after back after back, but then whether it was offense or defense, the Ducks eventually responded to it in either getting a turnover, making a big play, huge touchdown. Like, it's just a very consistent team on both sides of the field, and I don't know, it made you feel good about this squad right now. What do you think of that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I endorse that totally. All yes, and you like the there were a number of forms of adversity that Oregon faced. You know, the weather conditions was sort of the obvious stuff. You know, I think everybody sort of, you know, saw how both on individual very obvious plays where the wet ball affected things, and then just sort of some play calling stuff you could see where, well, we can't really do that, you know, we got to do this instead. And then that sort of like constraint, you know, because Cal knows that you got to do that, and so and that sort of affects things. I think everybody sort of is aware of that. And then there's sort of also some general like execution level sloppiness, you know, like all that, you know, there was like one more missed block than, you know, than would have been expected given the fundamental strengths of both of these teams. There's like one more, you know, dropped pass. There's like one more you know, but poor decision by Knicks, you know, like there's, you know, what, you know, each of the I counted prior to garbage time there were 20 failed plays. And, you know, there were 40 successful plays. It was a very, you know, very high success rate. But like of those 20 plays, a certain percentage was due to the weather conditions. A couple of them were Cal just making a, you know, a couple of good plays, you know, but then of the rest of them, like each of them sort of, you know, fell into the normal categories. It's, you know, there's no like one thing that was, you know, hey, we need to talk about this, you know, no, there's nothing like that. It's a normal distribution, but it's like one play more than expected, you know, in terms of like little execution, you know, issues. And so it's like, hey man, it's not like they played a perfect game in execution, or I mean, perfection's not even the standard. I shouldn't have said that. I mean, they didn't even play at their target level. You know, they played like a little below, you know, where their sort of expected target level was in terms of expected like level of execution, you know, focus. Like they could have played better from an execution level. Or I expected them to, actually. And then on top of that, there's also I thought I detailed my article, you know, was published about an hour and a half before we started recording this podcast. I detailed a couple, you know, I guess it sort of feels like nitpicking, but I detailed a couple different places where I thought Oregon was making some curious strategic decisions, some of which they sort of altered as the game went on. Like I thought they were playing a little too much man. They should have switched to zone. Hey, they eventually switched to zone. I thought that they were, biting a little too hard on play action when it was like very obvious the way that Cal's passing attack required them to bite on play action, and that their run game wasn't very a serious threat. And they really kind of did that throughout the game. In fact, like Cal went on that drive that eventually ended on that fumble on the goal line, the scary one in which their running back got hurt. Like
I admitted to Aaron, I fell asleep for 1 minute of this game, and it was during that play. I woke up and I was like, "Oh wait, we got a turnover. Bad stuff is happening."
It was. It actually didn't. It was weird because I had to watch that. Although I actually considered that drive to be garbage time because Oregon was sort of out of reach. But like
at that point,
but like that drive is like Oregon sort of was making, in my opinion, some really bad strategic mistakes right up until that goal line run in which they shut it down, and unfortunately their running back got hurt. It's not like it was a dirty play, anything. It was just an unfortunate thing that happened. But they never really corrected that. Like, you're biting on play action too hard. Didn't you watch the USC film? And there's a couple others that I noted in the article. I also noted a bunch of other strategic stuff that they did that I thought was really like clever. There's an entire, I didn't have to or anything, but like because it wasn't like really necessary to understanding why Oregon was hitting a bunch of big plays against Cal. That you could understand just by watching the athletes, which like from the first two clip compilations, in my article, but the third clip compilation in my article was like, hey, look at a couple of these play sequences where they're manipulating the defense that I thought were like really interesting strategic moves that didn't wind up having like huge impacts on the game. I just thought they were very like clever and interesting and indicate that like, hey, there's some strategic consciousness on this team, which is like, I don't know, I think just interesting and good for the reader to be able to observe. And like, it wasn't stuff that I was like immediately, like, for example, they were using multiple tackle over formations and used them in different ways to manipulate the defense, and were successful at manipulating the defense using those taco formations to get them into different looks, like, which was like cool. And like, so yeah, I don't want to just be dumping on the Ducks for like strategic dumminess, because they were also doing lots of strategic awesomeness. But like, I guess what I'm trying to say, because I said I would yes and you, like, is that like, it's not like Oregon was playing at 100% or 110%. Like, they didn't blow out Cal because they were playing out of their minds, like at 100% or 120%. They weren't redlining it, man. They weren't going all out like this was above and beyond. They were playing maybe like 80% of what they could do, and then take back another notch because of the weather, and then take back another notch because please don't make me talk about the penalty situation. Please don't make me talk about the penalty situation. We all saw it. For most of the game, Oregon had more penalty yardage than Cal had rushing yardage. Like, please don't make me talk about it. I just let us simply observe. There was a large discrepancy between the amount of penalty yards that Oregon had docked against them and the amount that Cal had docked against them. That was another form of adversity that Oregon overcame en route to a blowout, in which their third stringers, freshmen, and walk-on offensive linemen scored 2 touchdowns against Cal's defense. So that's what I'm saying, is Oregon operating nowhere close to 100%, much less, redlining it, blew out Cal.
Cal paid off.
What would happen if they played a complete game?
I mean, how many points can you score at a certain point? Like, yeah, it's kind of like talking about the USC defense. It's like there's just how much of an ass kicking can you kick a defense in the ass? We doubled our season total of turnovers. I'm sure this greatly concerns you. Yes.
I mean, they're both, real free. You know what's funny is they're both Tez Johnson.
Yeah,
They're
this
they're
is the
free
Tez
place, and they're both.
Johnson
Yeah, exactly. The
redemption
first
game.
Yeah, exactly. The first one like bounces off his hands, and the second one, and they're both sort of because of wet conditions. The first one, obviously, so the second one, if you watch it closely, he goes in motion,
Yeah.
and as he's going in motion, he slips a bit on the wet turf, and that's what causes him to be a little bit late and causes him to be right in the way when the ball gets snapped, and that's what causes it to hit his legs instead of him clearing it, and then the ball like freely gets to Nix. And so like both of them, they hit Johnson, and then Cal gets the ball. And so it's like, lest anyone think Tez Johnson is a bum who just does nothing but cause turnovers, he then plays the game of his life, right?
Yeah, literally
It's
career
like,
game.
in case anyone needed some convincing that those were freak turnovers or anything.
You were at the game. Was it?
Oh, wow.
Was it for?
I met up with the
straight
Right for Cal
quarters?
guys. It was nice.
Nice. That's very wonderful. Did you have like?
Yeah, all of us publishers know each other. It's a secret cabal to keep the hoi polloi, under control.
We know we're all on your thumb. Was it like 4 straight quarters of hardcore rain? Like sometimes it's kind of hard to tell on the TV.
No, it was the hardest it was at the beat. First of all, it never rains in Autzen Stadium, so
There's
this was
that.
some sort of like it was Avi, crying the entire time over the conference breaking up. It was just like the flood of Avanash's tears was just overwhelming.
It was Alex Grinch flying above the stadium, maybe, who knows?
Prior to because Oregon played before USC, but okay. But anyway, yeah, it was mostly in the first quarter, and then it died down a bit towards the end of the first quarter, but then it came back again at the beginning of the second quarter, and then it died down again by like midway through the second quarter, and then all of the second half. I was basically nothing. It was like a couple. Basically nothing. Like essentially zero weather conditions.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say about this. It's hard not to compare like opponents, with other teams that we're hopefully going to face in the future, like Washington and definitely USC coming up. I mean, USC, it's an interesting game where it's clearly like, well, we know the problems with USC. Like their defense is absolute garbage. Their offense is actually kind of a secret mess, even though they put up a lot of points, a lot of yards. But the way you lose by them is, Caleb Williams going to do some crazy ass shit and score a little more than you did.
Their offense, their offense as designed, if you don't know what you're doing in order to constrain if you don't know how to react to their RPO, which is, it was funny when Stanford played them in week 2. It was weird because Stanford was actually doing a fairly decent. It was like opposite day. They were actually doing a pretty good job of dealing with Caleb Williams' improvisation, except for one play when they didn't. So sorry. And also was doing a pretty good job of containing their standard rush stuff, like they're just, normal non-RPO runs, and also him passing from the pocket, like against their wide receivers, because like secretly their wide receivers are not that good. Or not like USC good. They're like Pac-12 good, which Pac-12 has good wide receivers. They're just not like
they're not like mistake eraser level.
Yeah,
receiver.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're not like George Farmer and all those other, Marquise Lee, et cetera, et cetera. They're not mistake eraser. That's a good way of putting it. I should just steal that term. Thanks.
There you go.
But Stanford, defensive coordinators ought to hang their head in shame because they could not crack Lincoln Riley's RPO like at all. Like every time they did the Lincoln Riley power RPO, they were just like completely buffaloed by it. And so therefore, just, USC made it a laugher because Riley just ran the play like 100 times, or as many times as was necessary to score like 4 touchdowns and 5 drives, and then Zachariah Branch got a kick return touchdown, or punt return touchdown, so it was like, became a laugher. But like, sorry for the interruption, but like, yes, that I agree with you that their offense is sort of secretly also a hot mess. But that is the caveat. Their designed offense, if you don't know what you're doing, a la Stanford, will rip you to pieces. On the other hand, like, for example, if you watch the Notre Dame game, they're in addition to Caleb Williams simply having a bad day, which, hey, any quarterback can do. Like, you shouldn't hang that against him. Any quarterback. I mean, Justin Herbert has a bad game. Marcus Mariota had a bad game. Everybody does. Like, it's, whatever. It's just USC is just not in a position, given all the other sort of flaws of that program, that they can't afford for their quarterback to have a bad game because they can't rely on anything else. But anyway, like, the other thing that Notre Dame did really, really well is that they had they were the opposite of Stanford. They had the Lincoln Riley power RPO game cracked. Like, and I'll have clips of my preview article on Friday demonstrating that like they were not, they had it cracked. And so USC couldn't go to that. And so therefore it had to be Caleb Williams making up stuff. And then when Caleb Williams had to try to make up stuff, he would throw interceptions.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron, do you have anything left for this Oregon-Cal game? Did you have
just one question?
Oh, man, I was off on a long tangent. We were supposed to be talking about Cal. Holy crap, man.
Well, I brought up USC because I got bored with Cal specifically. So,
what's a green flag? Why do they? Why do refs throw a green flag?
You saw someone throw a green flag in this
green
game?
Flag.
Yeah.
Maybe the color on the tint on your television needs
is it possible you're green brain?
There's the only other thing that you might have seen. There's 2 other things that refs throw. One is a bean bag, which is black. That indicates that the ball is out, like a fumble or something like that. And it is to mark where the ball went out at. And the other thing that they throw is their hat. And the hat is what indicates that a receiver has stepped out of bounds and is not eligible, at least until they reestablish themselves in bounds, to touch the ball.
Okay, yeah, it was weird on the play where it was like a forced fumble, and it was whoever our big boy is that scooped it up. Maybe he also forced it and then went into the end zone, but then they're like, no, it's back there.
Yeah. You probably saw the beanbag.
Okay, or because during that play, the guy, but it was the ref in the middle of the field, basically right after the fumble had gotten recovered, he just threw it right out of his belt. And I'm like, it could have been that the green screening,
do you think he threw him a dime bag? Is that possible?
No, I was just like, what is a green flag? I've just never seen it. And it's actually kind of imperceptible because it's the same color as the field. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's getting chroma keyed or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's probably the yellow flag on something. They also throw the yellow flag just to get attention, because it's bright yellow for stuff like a timeout or something like that. Like it does not necessarily mean a penalty. It's just a like, hey, everybody pay attention. But as
I mean, I know the color yellow and this one was green, which is why I asked the question.
I mean,
what
that's
is
got
a
to be
green
either
flag?
on your TV or the broadcast.
Aaron, I wouldn't, after 6-7 years of doing this podcast with you, covering the Oregon Ducks, I would not be surprised if one day you were like, wait, green is this color? I thought this was yellow. I would not be shocked.
No, because we all know the yellow. Everyone knows the yellow flag.
I thought we were yellow and green this whole time.
It's like more common than a play sometimes.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, there was more flags thrown than Oregon Duck plays in this game.
I asked not to talk about these.
One thing. I mean, they cheat. That's all we gotta say about the refs.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I felt good about this game. I am kind of getting it's sad that it's because I'm in my head, I'm like, yeah, okay, Oregon Cal, that game's done. Don't need to think about it anymore. And then I kind of forget, like it's in the wash of like, oh yeah, and that's maybe our last game against Cal.
Well, you know, when I met up with Avi, he invited me to come down because the ACC schedule dropped and just
Ooh.
before the game, and he
Mhm.
invited me to come down to Berkeley to watch the Miami versus Cal game next year.
Hey,
Because it'll, you know, Mario Cristobal blowing into the Bay Area one more time. Like,
that sounds fun as hell, honestly.
it does sound fun as hell, actually.
That is good. That's a wonderful excuse to go. I mean, you can wear your Oregon gear.
I
too.
know,
Like,
right? Everybody would
knows-
welcome me. I'd be
Everyone
like the
knows-
one time I could go to a foreign stadium and everyone would be welcomed in Ducks gear, you know?
That is great. I love it. Yeah, hit the day. Anything else to say about this game before we bury it?
Yeah, a lot of individual standout performances. I thought Jeffrey Bossa, you know, I already said, you know,
Yeah.
Tez Johnson played the game
Yep.
of his life. You know, I thought Jeff Bossa played the best game of his career. I thought like just
Hmm.
everybody's like Oregon's getting stronger. You know, I said this on a podcast that I recorded yesterday that like it's sort of remarkable looking around the conference where like, you know, because of Oregon's sort of focus on depth and experience, and sort of like rotating players like Iapani Lalaulu, who's the true freshman they're rotating at the guard spot. Like, first of all, that's planning for next year. That's nice. And second of all, like he's getting better. Like the entire offensive line is getting better. Each week they're getting better at run blocking. They're only 1 point away from having a cumulative single-digit rush blocking grade, which is like that's the Oregon standard. That's what the, you know, the Rose Bowl teams, etc. They hit. So like, and you know, I could go on, you know, Justin Jacobs, who they got in the middle of the season, right? He's playing great, you know, at linebacker. Steve Stevens, you know, had his best game as a Duck. I mean, not perfect. I got a couple problems. I got a couple problems with everybody in this game. I always do. But like, you know,
Yeah, Camden
like,
Lewis missed that field goal. What the fuck?
Exactly. I mean, I'm not joking.
I mean, that was a 53-yarder, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say,
I want a 53-yard field goal maker. Like other teams had that.
I assume I'm never going to be like, especially
that
if
one
the
out of
game's
bounds.
not on
That's
the
not
line.
cool.
No,
The
He's got
game's
one
not
job:
on the
kick
line.
the ball inbounds.
Well,
like,
the inbounds thing, that is bullshit. But if it's like we didn't necessarily have to go for the 53-yard field goal,
right.
I'm never gonna put that on Camden Lewis that he
But-
didn't kick it because I know who he is, and he's not that guy.
I really loved that decision because here's what I think is actually happening is that they're seeing that he gets into his own brain about this shit, and that's what causes it. So they're giving him an impossible task.
I agree.
Go out there, do it, fail. It's fine. We don't care.
We at least just
get out of that
try it.
mindset, you know? Just go for it, bud. Who gives a shit? It'd be a career best if you got it. Congratulations.
But let me see this. Like each week, the run blocking. You know, I know the worst run blocking games of the season were against Portland State, against which they put up 81 points and like had huge like 51-yard touchdown runs. And that's because like I actually grade offensive linemen. Like I don't like do. I don't like reverse engineer stuff. I don't look at the box score and say, oh, you know, few sacks and lots of rushing yards. The offensive line must have been doing a great job. I actually watch the film and grade the players. And like, and here's the thing, the rush grades, like, and it's like, the rush grades get better each week, you know, incrementally they get better because it's a function of time and time with one another as they gel. And that's first of all why it's nice that they're doing the rotating thing, you know, and they're getting like, you know, and it's nice that Nashad Strother, you know, is getting, you know, reps towards the ends of games, you know, so that, you know, he's getting experience with this line in case, God forbid, there's an injury. So that, you know, the you know, gelling together is important for the offensive line. That them playing better each week is not a function of how strong the opponent's rush defense is, right? Like Oregon had a better, you know, rush defense grades against Utah than they did against Wazoo. Is that because Utah has a weaker rush defense than Wazoo does? No, it's because it was 1 week later, you know, because time is the constraining factor. And like this is the thing that I noticed sort of across the board. I was just using rush defense grades as an example because it's the most obvious one about like time being relevant. Oregon gets stronger over time because of its depth, and because they get lots of garbage time because they're blowing out opponents, and because it's they actually get a bunch of talented players and they give them lots of work, and lots of garbage time work, and lots of play with each other. They're able to rotate. They don't just have to play the 22 starters all the way through to the whistle because they're like sweating every game, right? Like there's for a bunch of, and they're able to rotate players to keep each other fresh. The Oregon gets stronger every week, and so a lot of Ducks played their best game against Cal. Is that a function of the opponent? Yes, to a degree, but it's also a function of it being week 10. And I expect in week 11 a lot of Ducks are going to play their best game because it'll be week 11. And also when I look around the conference, which we're about to do, right, like I see a lot of teams that started out strong, and it's like that it's like that horse, the drawing of the horse meme, right, where like the front of the horse is this brilliant drawing and the back of the horse is a child's stick figure. It's like Colorado looks weaker, right? Washington State looks weaker, Utah looks weaker.
Oh yeah.
There's maybe one or two other teams that we're
Arizona State had a really strong showing against Southern Utah University.
Sure.
So,
right. There's maybe a team or two that might get seen in Las Vegas that are like, maybe that team isn't gonna put up quite as strong a performance in Las Vegas as they did earlier in the year. There's only really one team in the conference that gets stronger over time because they're not like the best game that we play is the opening week, and every subsequent week is simply an injury risk.
Yeah.
And each injury that we take makes us weaker because we can only get weaker. Right.
It isn't like, Jordan Birch is down, we no longer have any pass rush. It's like, actually, we even have like Mateo is on the sideline.
Well, man, I didn't even talk about the freshman defensive lineman. What a by me. Look at all the freshmen on the defensive line. This was the number one like gut roily for me over the summer because I was talking about like, look, Oregon made a choice not to go after a bunch of transfer. They got one, Jordan Birch, but other than that, like they had top level, high experience, right? Birch and Dorless and Funa, and then they had bottom level freshmen, right? But then they're sandwich in the middle. It wasn't like a bunch of because they had a bunch of dudes leave or the defensive line, the transfer portal, right? Like the entire OLB group, right? But they didn't go backfill that with transfers. Instead, they just got a bigger freshman defensive line group of 4-stars, and they decided to play him, which I was like, ooh, I don't know about this. It's freshman on the defensive line. I don't know. And then they played him, and they all turned out to be great. Yeah. Right. Matayo Uyunglele, Blake Purchase, Tatum Tuioti, Marion Winston.
Yeah,
right. Like all of them, they've all been playing and they've all been great. Like, well, we haven't really seen Washington or Green that much except for in garbage time, but even they've been playing in garbage time. It's like Oregon wasn't afraid to play. They bet on, rather than like some 3-star experienced transfers to come in and backfill their like middle level of their defensive line, they bet on another layer of 4-star freshman defensive linemen, and the bets paid off.
It isn't like,
and that's why they're a team that gets stronger over time rather than a team that's getting weaker as they take injuries and the November stretch, happens.
Like if Latu was out for UCLA,
right. They'd be dead.
They just be.
Oh wait, they are dead.
And while he's there, yeah. Well, okay. Well, that's Cal UCLA. Let's get into what is getting into some very serious fucking Pac-12 football here.
Oh shit!
And that is the picks.
The picks.
The picks. That is right. The Great Pick'em Challenge is back in Quaction. Let's start here. So here's a team that At the end of the season,
I'm mad about this. I'm mad about this. I think my pick of Colorado in this game was justified, and then they pulled the rug out from under me, and they switched out Sean Lewis with that bum Shermer, who's a washout, and they had to have him, because of NCAA rules, they had to have him call the play down to Lewis and then utterly humiliate him like a ventriloquist's dummy. They had to have him call in the plays of another man. Oh my God.
So this has got to be a pretty big thing you circle if you're like Deion Sanders ain't it at Colorado. I feel like this decision to like demote the OC over what the results of like this year's Colorado team. It's like, what's he gonna do? Pull an offensive line out of his ass?
Yeah,
and
the
then
idea that this was Sean Lewis's fault.
Yeah.
I should have texted you, Adam, and be like, hold on, I don't like, you shouldn't hold me to my Colorado pick in that game.
I'm sure I would have followed suit. No, I loved it. But that seems idiotic. Like the amount that Deion Sanders is just shitting on his offensive line, being like, "Oh, these motherfuckers."
I mean, he's not
already.
wrong. Like,
he's not wrong, but
about his offensive line, you shouldn't say that out loud.
You're gonna need
some of ears and feelings. Like,
you're gonna need some of them, because as you've said a million times, you can't actually just transfer 5 new O-line guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, maybe you could have an improvement over this year's squad, but still, it'll only be better to have some people tried and true on that line, and it's so,
which is something he already knows. The dude who turned over the most roster in history, still retained 2 starters and like 2 other guys from last year's line. Like, he was already aware that you can't 100% rely on the portal at the offensive line. He already knew that.
Yeah, and with the Sean Lewis business, it's like, what do you gain from demoting him right now?
Which, like, remember in my offseason preview, the only serious article to ever be published about Colorado in that entire offseason, which came from a Duck website, because there's only one grown up in the media in all of college football. Was like discussing how Sean Lewis at Kent State, produced, offenses that were 50 ranks better than his talent rating, and that he was like the best thing that Colorado had going for him. And then Sanders cuts him off at the knees.
Yeah. Honestly, if Sanders were to leave, Sean Lewis would be a fantastic person.
I agree.
Jump right in there. And now that whole situation would, whatever. So Colorado is,
why on earth would he stick around?
Deion, it's insulting, and he can go get a maybe better job than head coach of Colorado.
You know who ought to hire him? Is Georgia. When first of all, they ought to fire Mike Bobo. The idea that anybody is employing Mike Bobo again, what is wrong with you, Georgia? Are they like, put down the crack pipe? Like, they lost Todd Monken to the NFL and they went back to Mike Bobo. Like, are you okay? Sean Lewis played Georgia. That was one of the games that I reviewed. I first of all reviewed it for the film study purposes for Oregon playing Georgia, and second of all, I looked up that film again because I was, wanted to write a good preview article about Colorado, because CF, only grown up in the room. Kent State kicked Georgia's ass.
Yeah.
Sean Lewis is a good offensive mind. Like, and you know who the quarterback was who kicked Georgia's ass in that game? Colin Schlee, another dude who Chip Kelly is wasting at UCLA.
Yes. We'll get into them. Don't worry. Deion Sanders is having some real Shakespearean, like, Mad King vibes, like locked up in his castle, being like,
Howl.
Like, kill all the generals, like, kind of feel vibe to him.
Who do you think his Cordelia and Regan are, though?
Oh,
he's unmarried.
Unfortunately, my Shakespeare, my high school Shakespeare camp at Ashland, Oregon, knowledge is failing me right now. That's right. I was a pretty cool kid. So
That's some top tier Shakespeare, though.
Colorado.
You open the King Lear door and you.
Yeah, and then I fell right through it.
All
Clearly.
right.
So Colorado took on Oregon State, and so all this shit we've been talking about Colorado. Oregon State goes to Boulder, and it is actually still a game, which you got to bring that up as another negative against Oregon State, where you're like, yes, you have a good record. Yes, you're ranked, but you should be handling some these teams more than this. Like, this is too damn close. You need to be
Yeah.
more dominant than this.
I mean, Colorado should have won this game. I still stand by the pick. Like,
Well, I stand by my pick, which was Oregon State, which was the correct pick,
all right.
which you traded me, Aaron, if you remember last week.
Oh, did I? Is
You
that the one I
traded me.
traded?
We straight because at one point I had Colorado, you had Oregon State.
I mean,
and
what was the
Hyth
margin
said,
of victory in this game? What was the
Oh, it was
margin of
nuts.
victory in this game?
Like one touchdown.
Yeah, it
correct.
was-
8
it was-
points.
Dang.
Yeah.
It was
It was
26
funny.
to 19.
It's
it was,
insane.
Yeah, it was a low
Yeah.
scoring game. Oregon State couldn't run on Colorado. Let me repeat that. Oregon State couldn't run on Colorado.
That's bad, man. Yeah. It's bonkers.
Well, I'm glad to be
yeah.
the cannon fodder in your chase towards Hythloday because you weren't behind by all that much.
I was behind by 2 last we
right,
talked.
right,
I'll let
right.
you know how it
Oh
turned
shit!
out.
Oh, it's getting heated over there.
So now this game, so yeah, both teams, you're just like, what the fuck is this? It would have been pretty funny if Colorado won that one, but Colorado versus, and
It would have been just, not funny. It would have been just.
I want to say this too. I am excited. I'm gonna re-listen to our before the season. We had a bunch of predictions. We
Sure.
predicted, I believe we predicted everyone's like over under in their season outcome. For Colorado, I was super low on. I'm like, I don't think they're gonna get to 3 wins. And for a while, I was kind of sweating, like, oh, okay, it looks like they're gonna do better than that. But then people overcorrected so hard. The amount of people where the conversation was just like, well, we know they're going to a bowl game, but can they get to 9 wins? It's like to assume this team was going to a bowl game is still fucking nuts. And honestly, 4 wins is a good thing. That's a good positive thing.
I was 4 to 6.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
That was my range, and I was like, they're going to struggle to make a bowl because they're a mid-tier, Pac-12.
You did say they'd likely,
and that they were going to have injury problems because they just have barely enough.
Yeah, and it's kind of clearly happening. So right now we got Colorado versus what is one of the bigger surprises in the Pac-12. Kind of how competitive they're looking.
Though?
Well, I mean, everyone who's been watching,
listen to that podcast,
everyone who's been watching Jed's Arizona teams, you have to mention, even in their, like their worst year, being like, well, this team is fighting a lot harder than look at this team, watch out for this team in the future. Arizona was a team on the rise, but right now they are ranked number 25. They have been competitive against everybody, even against Mississippi State, who sucks, but and they definitely want that game.
I mean,
back.
that was a 4 overtime game.
Yeah.
Competitive. Yeah. Check that box.
It shouldn't, and the
refs ended that game,
Yeah, that's true.
It was a 4th down in overtime, and
Jaden Delora threw
he didn't make it.
Jaden Delora played that whole game and threw 3 goddamn picks or whatever in a row.
I sort of feel like if Fafita played that game, that's a win.
I mean, Fafita's been really fun
Adam
to watch.
Green, if you're listening.
And so they're a program on the rise. It's very cool they're ranked right now. Almost beat USC, almost beat Washington. One of the only teams with 3 losses.
I mean, that's how you do. First you lose big, then you lose close.
Yeah.
Then you start winning.
Honestly, it is pretty impressive. So now Colorado at home versus this rising Arizona team. Anyone? I mean, Aaron, you can start, you can end, you can do whatever you want. You are pretty far behind in this.
Yeah.
Do you want my take on this game?
I figure Arizona's probably the better pick right now because Colorado seems like a hot fucking train wreck mess.
A bit, yes.
Yeah.
Bit, yes. But are you going against the trend? I mean, I'll tell you now. I'm picking Arizona. I like Noah
That's who I'm
Fifita.
going to pick too.
Yeah, that's probably a smart pick. Hyth, I don't think you're high on this buff squad right now. Yeah,
No,
you're going with the
I'm
Wildcats.
selling on Colorado. Yeah, no Wildcats.
Even in a phase of the game where we're trying to be like, well, I got to go against the trend here because I'm trying to catch up. It's still like, no,
You're too
Arizona's
close to risk it with like that
Oh,
on
yeah.
this one.
Yeah, I do want the biscuit, but I'm not
Adam.
ready to risk it yet. Yeah.
Adam, just between you and me, I'm
Yes.
actually going to try and figure out a way to rig my vote so it only enhances your chances of catching Islade.
I don't quite know how that's possible, but
I don't know either, but we'll figure it out.
I like where your heart's at.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5, Washington versus number 13, Utah. Again, I'm like, power to you, Utah, but that 13 is a little bit fraudulent to me. However, they are coming off a huge fucking win, but it made me sad.
I mean, huge in the sense of like it's the largest margin that they've ever had as a Pac-12 member. Like,
yeah,
not huge as in defeated a powerful opponent.
No, this felt like the end of a war movie when a squad kind of like 300 or something like that, where you're like, wow, these mighty warriors, or like Glory or something like that. These mighty warriors gave it all they got, but clearly this is the last of them. They are outnumbered. This is the Two Towers and Lord of the Rings and stuff. They're gonna go on their final march out there, and they just get completely fucking wiped out. It's all slow motion. Willem Dafoe getting shot up shit. That's what ASU basically did.
The weird thing was that ASU was like, they didn't, most of the game did not look like a wipeout. Like,
yeah,
they were moving the ball fairly well. They were actually doing a decent job containing Utah. The game
they
was
doing
relatively
ASU
close. Yeah, the game was relatively close at halftime. It was just they couldn't punch it in a couple of times. And then just before the half, they had an opportunity and they sort of squandered it. And then it just that just like kept happening and kept happening. It was just like
Trent Bourget gets injured and
and then the quarterback, their like quarterback situation just keeps getting more and more horrendous, which is like crazy because like that was the one thing that I said of ASU in the offseason was just like, well, at least they stacked up like 5 good-looking quarterbacks, and then like they all get hurt and they all suck.
Like, yeah.
It's just like, how did this happen? Like, you hedged your bets at this position better than anybody else, and it still didn't matter. What the hell?
Yeah.
Like
Cam Scatterboo is literally gonna have to do every fucking thing for this.
I know if
team.
he comes in and starts playing quarterback and does that better than everybody else
and beats us. If Cam Scatterboo beats us, I'm no longer.
And he starts doing the Marcus Mariota thing and throws passes to himself. Like,
that's what it'll take. This was, what was it like? Was this score like 55-3 or something?
That's what it was at the end of the game, and I know it looks like a wipeout. It was. It just. I'm telling you, I had to watch the game because Oregon's going to play ASU in a week or two. Like, or I was watching portions of it. I have to go and chart it later. But like, it's like I'm telling you, it didn't look like a wipeout. It looked like when they were playing, it looked like a competitive game. It's just like Utah would score and ASU wouldn't, and then repeat that till the end of the game, and that's how you have 55-3. It didn't look like, oh my god, all out blitzkrieg,
Well, I get what, because I was listening to this on the radio actually for quite a bit for the second half. I was walking around, and I get what you mean, but also this is like walking in and just seeing just like completely desolated body and being like, oh no, it's not quite what it looks.
Yeah.
Hold on a sec, like this I love this ASU team.
No, I
really
explain.
do. Hold on. Hold on. I love ASU. It's just like they already were such a banged up team, and now we're late in the season,
Well,
and it's
it's just the
truly
thing is like ASU has at a number of spots pieces to be, it's not like we're talking about like the least talented team in the universe. Like some of
Mhm.
these like Wazoo teams over the
Yeah.
years that was just like this is a Mountain West team.
Yeah.
Like
Or
they
Cal.
actually have a lot of the pieces to be pretty competitive. It's just it tells you how much number one, their offensive line is trash.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse. Like they just had a dude that they were relying on just announce in the middle of the week that he's gonna no, I'm gonna shut it down, red shirt, and transfer out. It's just like, thanks,
wow.
dude.
Oh.
Like, yeah. So like, a offensive line is central to your football team, and B, like not having all your quarterbacks get hurt also central to your football team. Like, yeah, it's just like it really. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like,
And Utah hates ASU.
well, yeah, there's that too.
So they're
But
ready
it's
to
like,
do that.
yeah, it just really tells you just how absolute like you can have like everything else to be competitive, but if you don't have an O line and you have a hurt quarterback, you're gonna get reamed. Like,
Yeah.
that's just the nature of football. I'm sorry, those are super important positions.
I love the Sun Devils. Yeah, they got just yeah, no good. But we want Utah to have all the confidence in the world. Cause me personally, hey, any Duck fan, go any route you want. I know a lot of Duck fans are like absolutely never root for the Huskies to win. I'm not 100% in that camp. That being said, I'm always down to watch a funny loss or to watch them lose in general. Always down for
Funny
that.
loss.
Not a bad day when the Washington Huskies lose. It would behoove us. We would rather, if we're, talking about pure Oregon sense, it would be better for us to have just an undefeated Washington take on a one-loss Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. However, if we win every game, we're making it to the playoffs. That's all that really fucking matters. Number 5, Washington at home against number 13, Utah. It's a weird one, Aaron. I mean, obviously Washington is the favorite here. They just took on USC, and the game was fucking nuts. It was a good game if you like points. Both teams had defenses that were unable to stop the other team, except Washington was able to stop them a couple of times.
They got a couple of stops at the end. That's it. Those,
that was enough. And it truly was like they got a turnover. ZTF got a pretty awesome turnover from Caleb Williams, who Caleb Williams had to do everything for their offense, and it was still back and forth, except Washington took advantage. I mean, Washington did what they do, which is like took the risks that they needed to at the right time, got lucky at the right time, has awesome receivers, has an awesome quarterback in Michael Penix, and just outscored the other fucking team.
Oh, well,
That's about it.
There's one other detail, which is that their rushing attack for the first time ever, like, they ran for, a whole bunch of yards, including like I think set an NCAA record for most yards prior to contact.
That's right.
Like,
Was it 199? I heard.
Yeah, some bonkers number like that, which is which just indicates just how god awful USC's defense was.
Before contact, 199 yards before someone touches him.
Yeah.
And it's not because he's the greatest running back behind the greatest.
Dylan Johnson is not a bad running. Like I think Dylan Johnson deserves a lot of praise. Like it's just like there's a reason why that like he hadn't done that before, and no one else in the history of college football on any other team, in which there's been a million great running teams, playing a million awful teams, like has done that before, and it's because of how like world historically terrible Alex Grinch's defense was.
Yeah,
and I use the past tense.
Yes, he got fired, Aaron. Finally,
wow,
the defensive coordinator for USC got fired. Who he's worked with Lincoln Riley for, like years now over at Oklahoma too. He was the DC at Wazoo, had one really good season that set him up for a decade afterwards. It kind of felt
wow.
He's now been fired. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing for the game against Oregon? I mean, Hyth would argue literally if no one did his job, it would be better than Alex Grinch doing his job. So, but
I've said, I think on this podcast, if a border collie,
yes,
Yeah.
we don't know if they've
which is
hired a border
barking
collie.
out the play signals, and they tried to like divine how they should line up from how the border collie barked at them. That they would be doing a better job than whatever Alex Grinch was telling them to do.
I mean, yeah. So that's what Washington is coming off. I mean, it is like it is impressive what they are doing this season. Washington is doing, their offense is doing, anyways, and their defense is doing enough to have them at number 5. To have them in a playoff spot as of right now. Eventually, if things work out. But so Washington versus Utah. Utah, bad offense, good defense. Number 13 seems a bit high, but Washington plays down to whoever they've been playing lately. So who do you got? Well, Aaron, I'll let you know. I think this game will probably be close. But I think Washington will win.
Yeah, that was obvious to me. I think Huskies all day. All day Huskies.
Okay. If I was someone, well,
it's interesting.
It is interesting.
It could be that my vote is really kind of more emblematic of who's gonna lose, because that's kind of what I've been doing the best lately.
Yeah,
is picking losers. So I'm going to tell you, this is how my vote can help you, Adam. I'm going to tell you, I'm going with the Huskies.
Yeah.
You do with that as you see fit, because I am not betting well this year.
I don't think Utah. Oops. I know a lot of people, anyone basically can run against Washington. And usually Utah is a really good team to be able to be like, oh, you have this one weakness and it's running up the gut or something like that. You're like, okay, that happens to be the thing we want to do most in this world. But right now, this is a team that is unique, Utah team that is uniquely unable to take advantage of that as much as they would have in the past. So I think I'm going with Washington, but this is a pretty good upset to pick if you were going to be forced to pick an upset. Hyth, do you have the Utes taking on and taking down the Huskies in this one?
Did you pick Washington?
I went with Washington.
Yeah, I also have Washington. I'm
like, there it is.
I think, yeah, this just isn't. I mean, Utah could pull this upset. Like I can. It would look similar to their upset over USC. It would involve them running the ball, because I still don't really think that Washington has a good efficiency rush defense. And Utah just trying to like sit on the ball, like make it a low possession, high variance game. Because I don't really think Washington has the ability to stop that. It's just that they would sort of accept the challenge and try to pass out of it.
Yeah.
The other thing is that Utah is a very Utah is very good at not being flagged and very good at drawing flags. And Washington, unless they're playing Oregon and Seattle, it tends to get flagged a lot. So the other thing that I think Utah, like the computer yells at me, is like there will probably be a large penalty discrepancy in Utah's, like penalty yardage discrepancy in Utah's favor for this game. Other than that, this isn't a great matchup for Utah. Like I think Utah's secondary is suspect, and I think this offense really does a good job of picking apart suspect secondaries. I think Utah's best strength is their rush defense, but Washington doesn't care about running the ball. Last game, accepted. That was just that was rushing of opportunity. It wasn't rushing of necessity. The Utah does have a very good pass rush, but as I spent like an entire week and more because of the bye week, telling everybody about a good pass rush doesn't really matter against Washington because the whole point of their structure and Penix's strength is that like he gets the ball out to the primary read, which is identified by pre-snap motions against the secondary before the pass rush can arrive. So, like, I fully expect Jonah Ellis to destroy Washington's line, but it won't matter because the pass will already be out for 30 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I just don't think this is a good matchup for Utah. Like, and I expect Washington to win.
And again, it's one of those things. Like, I want, Washington winning would be better for us than Utah winning, but
it's also not in Rice Eccles. That would be the other big advantage that Utah would have, but it's in Seattle. So yeah.
But I mean, ASU also took it to Washington. And if it weren't for some refs in purple and gold, maybe that'd be different. Let's get to the next one.
I just mean they can't take advantage of the Rice Eccles phenomenon, which is where the USC game was played.
Mm-hmm. True. Cal versus Wazoo, Saturday, 1 p.m. ESPN 2. Now, Cal is in a strange position where, they got a young quarterback, Mendoza, who I think is good. Like, I think he's pretty promising. I'd be pretty... Oh, you got any thoughts on that?
I'm mumbling to myself. I'm sorry. I can't remember now if the USC-Utah game was played in Utah or not.
USC-Utah was in Utah. I do believe. Yes. Now I can't. No, it was in USC, wasn't it? Huh. I don't remember.
It was in LA. Huh. How about that?
Yeah, I forgot. I remember because I remember there used to be a problem with Utah playing in LA.
Yeah, it was the home team always won that series. That's what was tickling my brain. Yeah. All right. How about
it's
that?
hard to tell when USC fans are so quiet, Yeah, exactly. So Saturday, 1 p.m. ESPN 2, Cal versus Wazoo. Wazoo is in the decline.
Right.
People have figured them out, and it is no fun. Well, I thought it was fun.
If that actually describes what's going on there, but yeah, something's going on.
Well, you got to be in the decline. Yeah, you mean that people have figured them out. I get what you mean. But they are definitely in the decline because they just lost to goddamn Stanford. It was a very close game, very low scoring. Like Washington State got a touchdown, and Stanford seemingly could do nothing. But then they scored once, and then it was a game because no one scored for fucking ever again until they get a field goal. Stanford gets a field goal.
So a boring game.
I mean, yeah.
That game was played in the rain. Like it was all day in the rain. Like the entire thing was in the rain. And so like, I don't know, Wazoo had some problems, but like Wazoo has bigger problems than the rain.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I don't know, like okay, when Wazoo played Oregon, like they, Oregon was wrecking their line, and the only way that Wazoo was moving the ball was Cam Ward was pulling off magic tricks, right? And like the receivers would just like unconsciously catch anything that was anywhere in their direction. Well, number one, that's because any quarterback who plays, Oregon just turns into Harry Houdini. And so like not having that, phenomenon obtain, was a big part of this. But then the other thing is just like, oh man, I watched a good chunk of that game. I don't know why, because it's not like, Oregon's never going to play Wazoo or Stanford again. They're not making bowls. They ain't making the playoffs. They're not going to, they've already played them. They're not going to be in the same conference. I don't know why I was watching this game. It was on at the same time as other games that were more.
You love Stanford. They're your favorite.
I don't know. That's, you're projecting now. But like, here's what I know what it was, because I had to do some weird video editing to get the tape in my library. Because the Oregon game cut off the beginning of it. Anyway, it was just like every time it came to be the case that Cam Ward needed to, okay, it's time for a Cam Ward magic trick to move the ball down the field. It was like, oops, I fell down. Oh, I don't have my magic anymore. And so like the thing that I was talking about with message boards beat math, like, where like that team's checked out, like the coach is gone, the team's checked out, like they're all hitting the portal, they're all like they're done. Like they're done. Stop picking them. They're done for the end of the year. Like, yeah. Like they're just done. That's what that game. And when I said math says Wazoo should win, message boards say Stanford should win. I'm going to go with math, but if Stanford wins this game, that means that the message boards are right, and you should never pick Wazoo ever again. And the coach is gone, the players are all gone. Yeah.
I mean, Stanford gave it their all, and it's kind of sad that it was.
Yeah, Stanford gave it their all, and they got 10 points against a team that's quit.
Yeah, exactly. But Stanford did win. That is fun. Cal, we know what happened to Cal last week, but Cal has again played like ridiculously good has played talented teams and has lost all of them, but has showed some promise, some more promise than in their losses.
I like Mendoza.
They take shots.
I just do, yeah.
And then Jay Knott, good running back. And you can pick some other stuff you like on these teams, but I mean on that team, but they're not a great team. I don't know if I'd say they're trending upwards, maybe laterally. Cal versus Wazoo. I mean, according to
this game is absolutely necessary for Cal to make a bowl.
Yes, Cal is more motivated, and actually for Wazoo, it's up there too. If they're,
because Cal's got this game, and if they beat Wazoo and they beat Stanford, I believe they qualify for a bowl because I think they're sitting on 4 wins, right?
Actually, I'm not sure about that. I'll look that up right now. Wazoo's kind of in the same situation where because they play Cal, then they play Colorado. They're sitting on
3 wins. They need to win all 3 of their final games. Wow. They got to win this. They got to beat Stanford. And what's their other last game?
UCLA, right?
Oh, that's a winnable game too. Oh shit, man. Oh man, I might become a Cal fan for these last 3 games.
Might as well. If they get to a bowl game, that's only, and they've got extend like a Wilcox. New quarterback of the future. Yeah, extend Wilcox, exactly. I mean, and fire Chip Kelly. We'll get into UCLA. Wazoo.
Oh my god, if they beat UCLA in their final game in the Pac-12,
exactly,
for Justin Wilcox to finally make a bowl and to send Chip Kelly to the shadow zone.
Well, no worries.
Yes.
UCLA will have to rely on their quarterback, who will be
and UCLA has to pay them alimony to do it. Yes.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I'm the sicko at the window. Yes.
There we go. We got a new narrative for Hyth here. So Wazoo is also, so they're 4-5. They need 2 wins. So theoretically, this is one they have to win because at the end of the year we'll get the Apple Cup. They're not beating Washington. It'd be awesome if they did. They're not. So Cal
Wazoo hypothesizing.
Oh yeah, Cal and they got to beat Cal and Colorado.
They got to beat Cal and Colorado. Okay, so yeah.
So theoretically, both these teams need this bad. I'm going Cal. I think for kind of the reasons that today said, like I don't get good vibes off Wazoo anymore.
Yeah.
But Wazoo could totally win.
Oh, they totally could. I think the line is 1.5 for Cal. And given that they're at home, that means that the Vegas thinks that Wazoo is a slightly better team. It, like on a neutral field, would be a slightly better team.
Like I said, Cal's got the energy of, like if you had like a wild animal in a cage and you had like food right out of it and you yanked it away over and over and over and over and over again, and then now you're being like, okay, let's open the cage. That energy of just like, I feel like we'll take them over.
Here's another data point that I should throw out about the Wazoo Stanford game. So my friend Parker Fleming, Stats O War, he writes about TCU, which is Frogs O War. So he's Stats O War. Nice. One of the many great things he produces every week on his Twitter feed is the net. Like basically it's success rate. He actually doesn't use success rate. He uses EPA over 0. But whatever. It's basically like, should you have won this game or not? And like, Oregon the last 2 weeks has been like the champ, like on a per play basis, they absolutely murdered Utah and they absolutely murdered Cal. Wazoo in this game against Stanford should have beat Stanford. They were actually the 3rd worst in terms of like on a per play basis. They outplayed Stanford and still lost. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it. That being said, Aaron, you going with Wazoo? Is that it?
No, I'm gonna go with Cal.
All right, makes sense. And Hyth, who you got?
No, Cal.
Ooh, we're boring this week. Let's get on to the next one.
I'll do the same thing as I did with you. I'm still sticking with my USC's losing out pick, even though
Nice.
the Cal game was reality interceded. Even though I should have had that win.
Yeah.
I now assert another one, which is Cal's winning out. Yeah.
Bowl game Cal would be very fun.
Yeah.
And maybe
even
back
though in the
one run.
offseason I was making fun of Rob for retaining Justin Wilcox, and then in year 7 he's still not going to a bowl, I now predict that Cal is going to a bowl simply because I want to see it.
And therefore you should get 7 more years of Wilcox.
Yeah, exactly. 7 more. It's like breaking a mirror. You get 7 more years of Wilcox. Yeah. So that means him having to win this game against Wazoo. But also it means beating Stanford shouldn't be too tough, and beating UCLA, which I'm gonna be delighted when that happens.
That would be great. Now here we've got, historically, I know this has been a one-sided battle between beavers and trees, but in this one, I'm expecting it. We talked about both of these teams and who they played already. Oregon State has had a recent history of winning the games they should, but by not too much. And also one of their biggest losses is against fucking Wazoo. So that says something. But this one, just right away, I think it's going to be a similar situation. I think it's going to be a close game because Stanford is trying. But I think Oregon State is going to win it.
is trying.
They are trying.
You should have a t-shirt made up that says that, Alan.
Stanford tries. Yeah. I mean, they were trying against Sac State. Didn't work out for them, but I'm going with Oregon State in this one.
Yeah.
They're obviously favored. I don't know what the money line is, though. I could imagine taking Stanford
it's the biggest spread of the weekend in the Pac-12.
Yeah. I would take, I don't know what it is. You say it's big.
Points.
Oh, yeah, I would take Stanford, and I'd feel pretty happy about it. Stanford was like, I think Wazoo was favored by 13 points against Stanford last week. And they didn't even score 13 points. So, yeah, I'm going with Oregon State. I don't got much to say about it, really. How about you, Aaron?
Same, ditto. Give me what you're having.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Hyth?
Yeah, give me Oregon State.
Yeah.
I like you. I would take Stanford to cover the points because I think Oregon State's a bit of a fraud, and Stanford is trying. It's a new slogan of the podcast. But yeah, there's. Stanford tried their hardest and they scored 10 points against a Wazoo team that had quit. So
well, that's one way to put it, or you could say Stanford tried their hardest and they won. So that's the way
also this game is at Reeser, the Potato Salad Palace, where Oregon State is apparently invincible.
Most Stanford alum have never tasted potato salad, even. So
that's true. They have no idea what maybe they've had like Niçoise salad though, and that has potatoes in it.
Yeah, then they would get like, oh yeah, okay.
Or like bouillabaisse.
I can see that. I've had that.
Vichyssoise.
I'm fancy. I don't know what that is. Now you're out of my language. UCLA
potatoes in it
versus ASU Saturday 6 p.m. Pac-12. You know I love the Sun Devils. Legit love them. They are probably my favorite Big 12 team now. Before the Pac-12 teams got there, I had 0 Big 12 teams I gave a shit about. But who was my favorite? I'm going to take a little time to think about right now. Who was my favorite Big 12 team before? Maybe like Kansas State, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, UCLA.
That time.
Yeah. Good podcasting. At the end of a long podcast. UCLA versus ASU. There's no goddamn reason in the world UCLA should lose this game. But I'm working on a new theory of mine, which is I think Chip Kelly, whatever you think of Mark Helfrich, I think Chip Kelly is that, but he's an asshole. That is my new theory. and that
I
he's
like it.
just been luckier than Mark Helfrich career-wise. Though right now, Mark Helfrich is having a great time commenting on games. So,
Yeah,
I don't know. Who's to argue whose career is better?
I mean, I like I like Mark Helfrich when he's commenting on games. Like he
Yeah.
dumps knowledge. He's not like a natural at it. Like he keeps tripping over his tongue. It's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he reminds me of myself.
Like they're both offensive gurus, you
Yeah.
know. One's an asshole, and the other one is a dude who legit loved the Ducks, has always loved the Ducks.
Also,
Gave it
Mark
his all.
Helfrich's taste in music is that if you ever listen to interviews of him, like he'll run down like the music that he listened to, when he was coming out, it was like Raheem B and like, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, he's cool. I don't know. I like Mark Helfrich. I mean, he's not. Both of them weren't very good at managing a roster. Both of them hate recruiting.
Mhm.
Both of them went
Who
to a
wouldn't?
national championship.
Mhm.
Like, what's the difference? What is the
Mark-
difference besides one's an asshole and one's not?
Mark Helfrich won a playoff game.
Yeah,
Unlike
Mark
Chip
Helfrich
Kelly.
won a playoff game. How many did Chip Kelly win? 0.
Chip Kelly's never won a conference championship game either.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Like for real, show me the difference between these two. So that's where I'm at right now. And like this specific UCLA team is just this deep into how long Chip Kelly has been there. It's just horrendously managed. And the good stuff they have seems to just be luck that they have it even. And he may actively be making good players worse by having them on his team. And he doesn't care about any of it. That's where I'm at. That being said, they should beat ASU. Even though ASU
Oh, man, I was
has
really
the heart
hoping I
of
was going to
gold.
get up a point on you. Damn.
Yeah. I mean, ASU has heart of gold, and I love them. They're not going to win this game, though, with the injury to quarterback.
Man, Adam, I think we're going to pick every.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
Like,
I mean, I could pick USC to win. I don't know. But that's I want so desperately to choose an underdog because I need to catch up to Hyth today. But UCLA's winning this game. I mean, Aaron, you got nothing to lose. If you want to have some fun, ASU could be a good one in this one. This would be my game of the season if ASU beat UCLA.
I mean, if it's
it'd be so
throwaway,
fucking funny.
if it's all just throwaway, I'll just stick with UCLA. Why not?
Oh. Hyth, do you have some guts, or are you going with UCLA?
No, I'm going with UCLA. I just think that, like their pass rush, like that's the quarterback situation plus the offensive line situation at ASU, like is the reason that they're losing games. And the one thing about UCLA that I actually trust, and when I say one thing, I literally mean there's one thing, like that's it, is their pass rush. And it's just like, oh man, they have one key in the key ring, and ASU's got like one lock, and like these, it's like, man,
ASU's got one lock in a fucked up door, in a window that's been kicked in. Like that is literally what's happening right now. I love you, Sun Devils, you bastards, but you ain't winning this one. I hope I'm wrong. God, I hope I'm wrong. And the last one, I mean, if I wanted to pick, this would be, if it wasn't the Oregon Ducks, that's right, number 6. If it wasn't the Oregon Ducks, this would be a decent one to be like, if you're looking for an upset, USC's got talent. USC just got rid of their DC, which may actually be, it's not going to improve their defense that much, but they made a change. I don't know. That could be something. There could be some fresh ideas happening. And USC has a truly elite quarterback that has to run around and do everything and is bound to make mistakes because there's just too much shit on his shoulders. I personally think like an argument could be made that Oregon's receivers are better. I mean, they're in a better situation being on Oregon's team than USC's team. But USC got a little too much hype on how much talent they have on offense because it matters less when your O-line isn't, cutting the mustard. Oregon should win. Oregon's a better team. It'll be soul crushing if they lose. I don't want to fall behind by choosing USC and then having Oregon win. That would make me sad. So I'm going with Oregon, going with the home dogs. What about you, Ren?
Ditto.
They're
Ditto.
not home dogs. They're home favorites.
Home favorites. That's right. They're my dogs. That's what I meant.
see.
Hyth, who do you got?
Give me the Ducks.
Yeah, I'll give you the Ducks.
Winning.
God damn, this is.
I know we picked the same the whole slate, didn't we?
All three of us picked all the same.
Didn't
Could
we?
not
We
be
did?
worse.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I know. Could not be worse for radio. Like I want to change one, but I don't
feel like the picks are really obvious this week.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm waiting for next week for some upset. Like 11 and
The
12.
closest one, like here are the Vegas spreads. It's 10.5 for Arizona. It's 9.5 for Washington. It's 21 for Oregon State. It's 17 for UCLA. It's 14.5 for Oregon. The only spread that's not double digits or close to with Washington is Cal at 1.5, and we all just finished saying that like we all think that Wazoo's done, and Vegas is like, you know, is just sort of looking at the math and not taking that into account.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
yeah.
and that could be one where it's like if I had to change, it's like, well, I could
Change it.
I could see Wazoo do it, but that requires me having this much faith in Wazoo and this late in the season, and I'll show you why I'm not willing to do it, because this is where we were last week.
Yep.
I was 2 behind Hyth.
Look at that. Good for you.
Aaron is 9
back
behind
there.
me. We'll just say that. Not having a good time. After last week, drum roll, please. Here we are.
Still 2 points
I got
behind.
4. Hyth got 4. I was pissed because we did choose pretty differently. It happened. It worked out well. I was so close. I was so damn close. Aaron got 2. Not
That's
great.
fucking funny.
So
I
I'm still
love that.
just 2 behind Hyth.
It'll stay that way more
So when
likely.
I choose it, well, I these last couple of weeks, when I choose, you know, like I am gonna have to make some decisions of like, okay, this is where I'm going with the underdog or whatever, or with who I think Hyth is not picking. But this is not the week for it. This is not the week for it. So that was the Great Pick'em Challenge. Fantastic show we've had so far. Time to end it the way we do every week, which is, of course, our super specific predictions. Hyth, if you want to just keep rolling with Cal's making a bowl game, that's big enough from me. I mean, that's crazy idea. But anything about this game that you like?
I will for the USC Oregon game.
Yeah.
I will predict that Oregon has more interceptions than passing touchdowns.
Whoa. Oregon
intercepts USC
right.
more often than they throw passing touchdowns. I think Oregon's
going to run
for a lot of touchdowns, and I think they're going to pick off USC.
That's a pretty solid one.
Well, that kind of changes my prediction.
And tie goes to me, you know, like,
What about
that
you,
goes
Aaron?
that goes against my prediction, which was they were going to mention Bo Nix's stepbrother, adopted stepbrother. They're going to mention it like 5 times, but he would have to be passing to him for that to happen. So
no, I think they're going to pass a lot. It's just they'll punch.
Oh, okay, yeah. They will bring up the adopted stepbrother.
It's very funny that the commentators
5 times.
They feel like if they just say, "Oh, that's his brother," that viewers at home are going to be like, "But he's black and he's white. I don't understand." And they'll just like to so much hate mail to ESPN.
But and they also nail on it because it's like, isn't that just beautiful? Isn't it beautiful? Like, oh
and it's
God.
like, I guess it is. You could just say brother. You really could.
You could also just not bring it up. You could just say the dude's name.
No,
he doesn't need a qualifier.
Got to say something. They're horrified to say the Polynesian name, so they got to bring that up, so they don't have time to say those. My super specific one for this is, well, the lowest amount of points that USC has scored this season is 20 against Notre Dame. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we will hold them to under that. This will be the lowest scoring game of USC's season, even after Caleb Williams quits on his team after the Oregon loss, mind you. So I think we're doing under 20 points, whatever that may be.
6.
Under 20 points. 6, why not? Under 20. Well, that's been the Quack 12 podcast, at Quack 12 podcast on Twitter, at Hythloday1, HYTHLODAY, number 1 on Twitter as well. Addicted to Quack is the website you should be going to. Subscribe to It Never Rains on this podcast, and subscribe to us if you haven't by now, obviously. Watch us on YouTube. We'll see y'all next week. Quack, quack.
Quack, quack.
Ducks. Bye.